Okay, I have all of my pieces back for our little dress, this one. So I'm going to add gathers, and this one I've made more of a straight skirt, and I'll do another version where I do a flared skirt later. Okay, so, well, we want the picture back. So how many extra gathers have we got there? That's if I do 3 inches, that will be a total of 6. So we can start with that. You can add more or less, but I'm going to add 3 inches, so it ends up totaling 6. Down my center back, there will be a zipper seam, and down the center front it will be on the fold. So I'm just going to create offset and add 3. So value, I'm going to do positive 3. And that will give me 6 inches of additional flare. And then I'm going to swap, modify line swap. So I can delete that line. And if I wanted to, well, that's not how I would do that. I could create off of this line a right angle, create perpendicular on line, so perpendicular to this line. That one we want to go back to the skirt video for. I'm going to undo that. But I need to flip it and make sure it's okay. Modify, flip. Yeah, so my side seam is still balanced and it's straight. But because of the angle at the corner and the way they meet, they're not coming off quite exactly the same. But they do work for this simplified version. This is the back, so I'm going to undo it and flip it back over. Oh. Okay. There. Okay, so the skirt is finished except for the notches. So on the back skirt, we'll want to put seam allowance in, and I usually will put the notches. We'll look at the picture in the front. Did I actually close the picture? Well, that wasn't very nice of me. Okay. So on this one, the gathers start in from the side, probably 3 inches, maybe 4. That's a design choice. So I'm going to create a notch. right click out in the water, distance from point, choose the point, and 1, 2, 3 looks like too much, so maybe I'll say 2.5. And it's clockwise, so it's a positive number, 2.5, but you get to choose where you put it. And I'm going to do the same thing with the front, but it will be coming from the opposite direction. So this one's going to be negative 2.5 because it's counterclockwise. So that's where my gathers start, and they're going to come over to here, and on my center front I'll have a notch in the center and they'll just gather straight across. And I'm going to delete that line. And on the back, you'll want to have a place for them to stop about 1/2 inch away from the center back, maybe 1 inch, so they don't interfere with the zipper. So create notch, distance from point, point to measure distance. I'm going to put in negative 0.75 because that will be far enough away from the zipper, but visually a little nicer. And this one I'm just going to put in the center, and it's sticking out that way because this should be on the fold. So if I want to put it on the fold, the plotter will plot both sides, and that usually disturbs people. So I'm just going to leave the notch crooked, and you'll know that it needs to be straight. And if you were going to put it in a production marker, you would want to put this on the fold like this. Modify piece, mirror, select the mirror line on the piece, say OK, and then that's what it would print out on the plotter. But I'm going to undo that, and the notch is straight. But that's the front. And you want to add annotations to everything so it's got your name on it and it's easy to tell. But there's my back skirt, and it needs seam allowance, and then it will be finished. And I wouldn't use less than 5/8 on the back zipper, but I would add additional seam allowance down the center back and down the side seam. I don't want you to put zippers in anything. I just want test samples, so go ahead and use 1 inch seam allowance down the center back and down the side seams, but make sure you put 0 on the center front fold. Same with the rest. That way, if you need to let it out a little bit, you can, and you don't have to start a new sample. Okay, so this one now is ready to match the notches there. So instead, well, we'll just put it at 3/4, but I'm going to delete those two. Modify, delete notch. We don't want that one or that one. I'll get that one at the same time. And create notch. Notch position, right click, distance from point, the corner. This time it's positive because it's going clockwise, 0.75. So that will match that one. And this time it will be distant from that point. It'll be counterclockwise, so we're going negative, I think it was 2.5, wasn't it? So Now if I line this up, that will sew where the notch is. Then you'll gather this until it equals that, and then sew that the rest of the way along and it will match. And I'm going to get rid of those highlight the grade rule, push the delete button, say apply. Lather, rinse, repeat. Delete button, apply. Delete button, apply. Okay. So we still need to add notches along here. Do we want more additional gathers than that? I think a convenient way might be to close this and see what happens. So we'll try that and see if it's too much darting. I don't think it will be though. Modify, no, advanced, dart, rotate. Select dart to rotate. Rotation point location, hold line, new opening point. Okay, so now my shoulder dart is opening into my waist, and this is one of the only kind of times you can do that because you now have added fullness at the waist and you're fitting the shoulder. So I think that's good. So I'm going to create a 2-point curve just coming around the bottom edge down here, and it's normal to have a curve like that sewing in to a yoke. So I'm going to swap that, modify, swap this line for those, and now you can see where your darts are. This is a very weird place to put it. If we weren't adding gathers, you would not put a dart there, but that will work perfectly for this. So this time I'm going to add a double notch at 3/4 of an inch and an inch right here so that that lines up, and then we'll put another one probably right here for it to end. So create notch, right click, distance from point, choose the corner, and it's going to be clockwise, 0.75, and then another one. Oh, I did that wrong. Ah! Okay, it must be time for me to be done. Right click, distance from point, choose the point, 1. And I'm going to do the same thing on this, but it will be counterclockwise, so -0.75 and -1. So now we have a double notch. It's obviously obvious that those are the back, but I don't want this to be the same because it would be sad if this got flipped over and sewn in upside down. So this is a double, this is a single, and I could make this one a double and then add another notch over here. So I think I'm going to do that. So my notch position is going to be distant from point again, but I'm going to start at the first notch, and going clockwise I'm going to say 0.25. I could make it further apart if I wanted to. Distance again, and starting from this notch, this one's negative 0.25 because it's counterclockwise. Okay, so those will still match. And my notch positions are different enough from the edges that it makes it possible to tell where they go. And since I've got 2.5 here, I want this one here, and I'll measure that. Well, it's actually 3 inches, so we're going to go with 3 and put a single. So another notch, right click, distance from point, -3, -3, and -3. No, this one's positive. Okay, so the reason I'm making sure my notches are distinctly different in position is that I want to make sure this piece can't be flipped over in any way and match the other side. So my double notch is distinctly further here than it is there, so it obviously matches this piece, and this obviously sews in there. So even if you didn't have instructions, you could pick this up and sew it together. So after you add your seam allowance, all of these pieces are finished. But this one needs a different name, so I'm going to save as. And that is dress back bodice with gathers. Piece to menu. And yes, we've made changes, so I want to save those 3 because they're finished. You can add your seam allowance and plot that and cut it out and sew it together. Just make sure you have a zipper space down the back. You'll be pinning it together on the dress form. I don't want you sitting up all night sewing in zippers. Oh, except I haven't done the collar, but otherwise they're done. Okay, overwrite. And so that's going to put them back in the menu, and that's yoke 2. Okay. And, oh, but I need to add it to my model because I changed the name. So this one, I haven't deleted that notch, but I added that one. So I'm going to delete the notch while I'm thinking about it. And this one was at 2.5, so I'm going to put a single at 2.5 right there. Create standard notch, indicate notch position, right click, distance from point, touch down and find the corner. And it's clockwise, so 2.5. So it matches the other one. And I'm going to say normal and just put one right here so it matches that. And this one would be on the fold too, but you probably don't want it to plot on the fold. So that connection is finished. Okay, so we're going to put, I've got options here with this one. I can rotate this dart in with this and have extra fullness at the bottom, or I can rotate this dart into the neck area, but I'm still going to want to add extra. So do I want some darting coming in the neck? This is about the same amount, so I had an extra 3 inches per side, and we've got at least an extra 2 inches here. So let's start by rotating this into the neck and see how that looks. Oh, yeah. Advanced, manipulate, select the dart to rotate. The rotation point location is the bust point, and the hold line is the center front, and the opening point I'm going to put over here. No internal lines are moving, so I need to say OK, and then set down the dart. So that's quite a bit to have in the neck, and I want more in the bottom because I'm going to want to add an additional at least 2 inches across here. So I'm going to do another thing. This isn't a dart, so I need to make it a dart. Modify, combine, clockwise in order. Now that fits the description of a dart because this needs to be all one line. So what I'm going to do is rotate 50% of this dart into this one. So this one will get smaller and this one will get bigger, and then we'll see how that looks. So advanced, I'm going to hit the down arrow under manipulate, and I'm going to distribute. I can distribute rotate, combine different line. I think I'm going to distribute rotate. So this is the dart I'm rotating. My rotation point is the bust point. Hold line is the center front. My opening point, I'm going to just put it right next to this one. I kind of want it more toward the middle, don't I? So I'm going to start over. I want this dart to rotate, my rotation point here, my hold line is the center front, and my new opening point I'm going to put a little closer to the center front. Now the percentage I want, I have to actually type in the number percent. You remember that from before. So I'm going to put in 50, and then where's the percent sign? Percent, and say OK. No internal lines are moving, so OK again. So that looks pretty good. We got rid of half of that, put it down here, and now we can add 2 inches down the center front, and we'll have some there. So I could add 2 or I could add 3. And I could rotate more of this dart, but I think at this point we can add a fixed amount. This is on the fold, and I want to change that. So that will just be under modify. Do I remember? Okay, that wasn't it. Open to me means it's open, but I don't know. I don't want it to be mirrored anymore. It used to be so simple. And I did it just the other day. Split? Nope. Modify piece. Open. Well, I did it with one of you the other day, and I don't remember what I did. All right, well, if that one ends up... Oh, I remember now. I traced it off. So we'll take care of that last. So this isn't going to be a dart anymore. Neither is this. And you can add what you want to the center front. You can add 3 inches like you did here, or you can add more or less. So I'm going to create, offset the line, select the line to offset, point to guide the movement, and I'm going to add 2.5. That seems like a lot. So you add what you want to. My instinct says 2. But you're the designer. And you probably don't need those on this version. So right here, we're going to blend that and get rid of the dart and do the same thing over here. And we have our additional gathers. So create line, 2-point curve, join here, join there, blend between the two. I'm comfortable with cutting off that point. So that is what I would do. And over here, from end to end, drop it down so it includes that little bit. It might have worked better if I had made a slightly shorter line. So splitting and swapping, modify line split. I have to split it at both ends right here under the triangles on all of them. And then modify line swap. This line for those lines, and this line for all of those lines. Some of those you can delete, some of them won't. Delete line. Okay, and then modify combine, clockwise and in order. Stop at the corners. Okay, I don't really want that sticking outside of the piece. Will it let me shorten it? Adjust. Yes, it will let me shorten it. Oh, look at that. I'll shorten it a lot. There. That's what's left. Okay, so I've got grade points here. Those might be helpful later. I want my gathers to start about right there, so we can measure to that. I'm going to add a notch right there, create a notch, and we'll just put it right there. So we're going to do it kind of backwards. We want them to go all the way across the center front though. And we want these to start about right there. So I'm going to measure, verify, that's not going to work unless I split it. And I'm splitting it exactly on the notch. So verify measure line length. So we want those, we probably want all of those. So I need a notch at 3.902 over here, and then one on the center front. So create notch, and if I don't like it, I'll change it. Notch position, right click, distance from point, choose the corner, and it's going to be negative 3.902. Okay, so I probably don't want them that close. They're spread out. Probably almost across from that one. So and I'm combining that back again. Okay, and I'm going to split where that notch is. So when the notch square is highlighted, then I'll release. So now I can measure the line length right here and make sure I get my notch the same, and that's 1.526, but it's straight below this one, so that works. So create notch. Now I've been fiddling with notches. You don't have to fiddle with the notches. You can choose where they want to be. You just need to have this be the same as that, and you're the designer, so you can choose where your gathers go from. And I've got them running across here and across there and gathering into that. So this notch needs to match that. But once you've chosen where you want them to be on the waistband, just do the same thing over here. You don't have to fiddle like I like to do. So create a notch, distance from point, choose the point, it's clockwise so it's positive, 1.526. Okay, so that notch matches this, then all the rest of that's going to gather in, and you'll put a center notch here. And if I wanted to do it on the safe side, I might put in some more notches, but I'm hoping I can trust you to match that up and this up, and that these two are going to be different enough that you won't flip them. So I'm just going to add those on the corner and this one, because it's on the fold, is going that way. Okay, so now we need to add our collar, and I like where that notch is. I'm kind of wondering if I shouldn't have moved the whole dart to the bottom, but we won't know until we sew it together. So now these two pieces are finished except for seam allowance, so I'm going to save those two and say okay. Do I have them in the model? Well, we'll do that at the end. And this one, oh, I do want to save as file. Oh, yes, it is so time to go home. Dress, bodice, front, gathers. And I'm going to piece to menu so I don't lose it and bring it back down. Okay, so I'm going to delete those two because they're already up there and they've been saved. Didn't I just save them? Yes, but it makes me feel better, so I'm going to do it because I know you guys do it. Okay, there, gone. Well, now we are back to our collar. And so I want to flip that around. Something looks suspicious there. Modify, set, rotate. Front neck corner, back neck corner. But it's okay. Oh, and I don't actually have to do that because we're basically making a mandarin collar. Oh, this is so cool. You're going to love this. All right, before I do it, verify line length. We need that line length too. Oh, and I need to, no, that is combined. Okay, so for this collar, because it's a mandarin collar, I can come up to create, over to piece, and up to collar. And I can add the piece to the model. You can decide how tall you want your collar to be. So this is telling you this is how tall you want it. I'm going to say 1. And from center back to shoulder, that measurement right there, that's 3.081. So 3, can I add? Point, oh, yes, 81. I don't very often make them like that. And so I'm going to change my collar width to 0.25. You don't have to have it that tall. Shoulder to center front is going to be 7. I'm adding those two numbers together in my head. 5.625. So that's actually going to 3.325. That's actually going to be 8 inches plus a little bit. So I'm going to get the calculator out. Where's the calculator? 5.398 plus 4.325 equals, really? Did I do something wrong? We're going to try that one more time. 3.598 plus 4.325 equals. That's better. So it's actually 7.923. So I'm going to change that to 7.923, and that's that distance. We'll have to come back and add this notch later ourselves. And what does line rotation mean? Oh, how far up do we want that to curve? So standard is 1/2 inch. The one in the neck opening looked like it might have been larger, but we're going to go with the 1/2 inch and say okay. Yes, I want a shoulder notch. Okay. I don't want to enter any fabric codes, and yes, that's the one I wanted in. Okay, so that's not right. You probably knew I was doing it wrong, didn't you? Okay, well this, I just made 2 identical collars. This would actually sew all the way around. We don't want that. I need to bring back my original before it got changed. Did I save that anywhere? No. I saved over it. No, I didn't. It's up here. There it is. Okay, so the one that I really need to be adding those numbers to, I don't want this collar. I want it shorter, and we're going to change the shape of that in a minute. So what I really need, rather than this, is to make the collar like the original, because this is going to control the fullness and fit the neck correctly. So verify line length, this one, say OK. So we've got 3.081 and 4.607, and that looks like it's going to make a lot more sense. So create collar. I'm going to keep 1 1/4. This is correct. So my shoulder to center front is 4.607, and I still have my, okay, there we go. And I don't want that, and I want it in that one, so I'm going to say okay. Where is it? Oh, I need to put my name on it. And say okay. So that's our color. And I'm going to delete those other 2 pieces. Modify, delete piece. Sometimes I prefer working with paper, and sometimes I prefer the computer. It just depends on what it is. It's nice that the computer keeps track of stuff. So I don't need that one anymore. I've created my collar, and this is going to sew right here, and then this is going to gather onto the collar. So now to finish this collar, I don't want it coming to a point right there. This is the center back. That's going to have seam allowance down it because it's opening down the back, and this is not. So in order to get the collar to look like the picture, it's even across there, and it's a right angle right here. So I'm going to come back to my create 2-point and come down to perpendicular on line and use this line and create a perpendicular line coming up, and then I want another perpendicular line at distance from point on that same line, and this time I've got it set to half. But distance from point, select the point to measure the distance from. I want it from the very end, and I'm going to do 1.25 to match the rest. And I'll just blend it back down right there and say OK. So I'm going to blend a curve between the two-point curve, and just blend that a little bit right there. And then I'll trace it off. Create piece trace. And there it is. Well, it's already there, so I'll cancel that and cancel to get out and delete this piece because I don't need it. Alright, so you'll want to label that as the color. It would be smart to label this as the center back because it might be easy to forget, but you can tell because it's on the correct grain. Alright, so if I wanted to walk this, I think we've done that before, haven't we? Verify, walk pieces. Select the lines on the stationary piece, that would be that one, change direction, and this one, and this one, and they're going the right way. And on the piece that's doing the walking, it's that one, change direction, and say OK. So this comes around and fits right there just perfectly, and when I come over here, it's going to fit, but you're going to have to gather all of this into that line. So I think we're going to let you decide your gather distribution when you're sewing it, so I'm just going to get rid of that notch. So there won't be any gathered into the back, but there will be a lot gathered into the front. Okay. So modify, delete notch, and then when you're doing your sample, decide how it looks prettiest, and then you can decide where to put the notch over. Probably somewhere around here, but you can decide that. Modify line, combine. Okay. So these two are finished. And they're probably already in the model, but I'm going to save them both. So if it already says it's there, say cancel. And the main ones are there, but I want to delete these two because I've minimized it. These two are still in the other one. So I'm going to say OK, and then I'm going to come back and remove pieces from this one, and that one, and that one. So those are my main pieces now. So when I close this, I have unsaved pieces. So I'm going to say save and close and overwrite. And then when I open it again, file, open, I have my dress finished one. Okay, one of the color pieces went in that didn't belong there. So I've got all of my finished pieces. but it's apparently I didn't add the back. So I might have to go hunting for that. But I'm going to open another window, File, New, and then in this window I'm going to File, Open the original dress, and hopefully you did a better job than me. So I've got my original, but I didn't get the right one in here either, but I've got everything else. So I can close that one, and I just need to find my back that goes with this. So File, Open. I can't be looking in models for it because it's not there. I'm going to go to Piece, and it was under Louise back dress, I think. Everybody goes through this. That's this one. Open. Yes, that is it. So I need to add that to the model, make sure dress collar plain is in the model, and then get rid of the other dress collar. And you know how to add seams, or you can go back and review for seams. So File, Model, Add Pieces. I want this one in there. And the collar that doesn't have my name on it is the one I need to delete. So I'll say OK, and then File, Remove Pieces, choose that one, say OK, it's gone. So I can close this, and it will be all ready to print when you're ready after you've added the seams. And it should look very similar to that, other than that I made the skirt straight. And if you've already finished your basic skirt section, then you could pull in one of your balanced ones with added flare, and it would look a little bit more like that.